Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload, as you can tell, we'll be talking about another, or the same one I made a video about yesterday, another storm system, right? This one is different than the ones we've been seeing, but it is powerful, strong. We'll have a snow component to it, we'll have quite a bit of rain, and definitely still an impactful storm system. So we'll talk about that in today's video. And if you like weather-related content, I'm a hobbyist. I love the weather. I like giving forecasts on it. So if you guys enjoy that type of stuff, if you find this channel enjoyable and you've watched a few of my videos, then consider subscribing. And if you are a new viewer, or sorry, a returning viewer, then liking the video would be absolutely fantastic. So let's get into this without further ado. Right now we're looking at this HRR model. This is a HRR, high resolution rapid refresh, right? And we have quite a bit of stuff going on across the East Coast. Really not that much as we've seen in the past 24 to 12 hours, 12 to 24 hours. Still, though, the remnants of Tropical Storm Ada are still there, and it's definitely pushing away and will do so. Notice we do see a bit of rain and the light snow, unless there's a squeaky chair, right? Light snow across Wisconsin, Minnesota, and the UP of Michigan. So that's definitely something we'll have to keep an eye on for. Really, no heavy accumulations with that, just a quick burst of snow for some of those larger cities like Green Bay, maybe, and Marquette, and pushing into Lake Michigan. Notice, though, what really catches the eye is this huge surge of moisture onto the northwest. And let me tell you, the cold air will definitely be there. It won't be awfully plentiful, but many locations will get snow, and probably many locations will get their first snowfall of the year. You can see that the precipitation with this will be abundant. So this is right now, this map is around 9 o'clock Western time, and as we push this into forward, we can see this is 12 o'clock, so this is midnight today. Notice, very heavy snow across much of Washington into Oregon, and really we do see some widespread light to moderate rain across, again, Washington and Oregon. So that definitely already starts pushing in a few hours, and it continues to do so as we push into the overnight hours, the wee morning hours, if someone's getting up, say, for work into Friday. Notice that we have a ton of rain pushing in, very heavy rainfall amounts, and the snow is also very heavy. Notice it doesn't really fall apart, if you will. It sticks together, and lots of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, the inland locations, if you will be seeing quite a bit of snow. Again, precipitation in terms of rain will be very heavy, and people wondering, why am I talking about this as a winter storm? Well, right there you can see there are a ton of winter storm watches. If I were to show you the National Weather Service weather page, and I was looking at the radar here, so let's go back. Notice there are winter storm warnings just about everywhere across the Northwest. Many locations you can see. Let's just click on northwestern Washington. I do apologize about that. And you can see that the snowfall amounts will be obviously lighter in the lower elevation areas, but the higher elevation areas will be seeing quite the event in some areas, some peaks, maybe even seeing over 20 to 30 inches of snow. Very heavy snow, and this thing is a long-term thing. It starts, within the next few hours, if it already hasn't, and it will continue into 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock Friday morning. This is 8, 9, around that time, 10, 11. And notice this thing is still, it's winding down. The precipitation flow off the ocean is definitely dwindled, but there's still pretty heavy snow amounts across, pretty heavy snowfall rates across Idaho, Oregon, Washington, Montana, and Northern California. Said Washington there like 5 times. Okay, let's take a look at the total snowfall and zoom in. Notice, again, as I mentioned, a bit of light snow with that little disturbance across the Midwest. Nothing to write home about. Really nothing too significant. And notice that if we were to take a look at the snowfall accumulations, we would notice, quite a bit of snow. Now, obviously, this will be mainly towards the upper elevations, but even some of the lower elevations, not necessarily the mountains across Washington here in Idaho, seeing a bit of snow. Obviously, the valleys seeing mainly rain, Seattle rain, but where those mountains are, those blue colors, and even into those white colors, right around 3 feet, some locations definitely expecting that amount. If we were to take a look at the total accumulated precipitation, so that calculates in the snow and the rain, you would notice that this is just through tomorrow morning, tomorrow 12 o'clock noon. you could see quite a bit of rain, and obviously this calculates in snow and rain. Notice Seattle getting about an inch, inch and a half of rain, so definitely good amounts. And this extends into portions of Oregon. If I were to show you a model run of the HER model that goes out to 36 hours, it does so every 6 hours. And let's just take it through more time. Notice that really southwestern or southeastern Oregon and Idaho also do see a bit of rain. Really not as significant as they would like, especially since they are in a drought, but it is, they'll take anything they can get. And in terms of snowfall, 36 hours, you could see quite a bit of locations seeing some generous amounts of snow. And again, the trend of very heavy snow right on the mountains continues right there. Little peninsula, little toe of Washington also seeing quite a bit of snow. So that's definitely the trend. And notice this pushes into Northern California as well. Not heavy snow, but definitely a few inches into the Sierra Nevada. But let's take a look at what this storm does in the future. What's its next move? Where does it go, right? So let's take a look at the United States and go to a high-resolution model like the NAM 12KM. This is a model. You can see it does a relatively similar job with the snow, just a bit more blurred out because that's what the NAM does. It oftentimes really just doesn't focus on one spot, and it's not a high-resolution model, even though it goes out to 84. Notice what we see is a surge of moisture coming from the Gulf of Mexico, and that's mainly because we have a high pressure right here, a low pressure right here. This kind of creates an avenue of very strong winds, and it kind of kicks up some moisture. Notice some ice and snow maybe mixing in for portions of, at the beginning especially, maybe even Minneapolis, northern Iowa, Wisconsin. That all switches over to rain as we see unusually warm air mass, an unusually warm air mass for November. And notice that as we push this forward, we see the rain really blossom, and obviously that energy from that storm across the west sends quite a bit of, the NAM shows quite a bit of snow across Wisconsin, Minnesota, more than most models do. Most of the longer range models don't really show much snow across these locations, but the NAM does, so you can see this still has potential to be a pretty large winter storm. And then look at that, more snow for the Northwest. So the Northwest seems to be getting absolutely pummeled, and southwestern Canada as well. Notice a lot of heavy snow into Saskatchewan, Manitoba, not really Manitoba, Ontario, north of Lake Superior. And again, this NAM model, this NAM 12K model run does show an interesting twist on this, different than most models, but it's definitely a possibility. Notice it makes it a pretty strong storm, a little bit of snowfall across Michigan, the UP. But in terms of total snowfall, you can see that it paints a general 1 to 2, 1 to 4 inches of snow across Wisconsin, Minnesota, and very, very heavy snow potentially across Ontario and into Quebec. And I do have viewers from Canada, and people seem to not understand why I talk about Canada, but well, the border doesn't really dictate where the weather stops, especially since I already have Canada pulled up. So if it's a winter storm across Canada, I can call it a winter storm because a lot of my viewers are Canadian, right? So notice Maine also possibly seeing some increased snowfall right there. NAM 3KM is in the same family as a NAM 12KM, so it shows similar features, right? But if you were to look at this, it only goes out to really 60 hours, so it doesn't really fully encapsulate the storm system. Notice a lot of heavy snow across the Northwest. That seems to be the trend. But it's just starting to kick the storm out, starting to intensify it and around where as far as it goes. Let's take a look at some more high-resolution models like the RGEM. You can see this one really doesn't show much snow from Minnesota or Wisconsin. It shows quite a bit of rain, and that's honestly good because a lot of these locations are seeing drought. I know my location is just super dry. We need that rain, so notice that moves through northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana. Quite a bit of rain with that. Maybe a bit of snow mixing in at the backside of this across Wisconsin, but really just a full-fledged winter storm across southern Canada into James Bay. And now it seems that maybe even a bit of snow mixing in across the more populated southern Canadian areas as like this thud of snow. First thud of snow before transitioning into all rain. Notice a city like Quebec, located on the mouth of the St. Lawrence Bay, right around there. Also, most likely going to see a thud of snow before it transitions to rain. But look at that. I mean, that is a powerful storm. It could be combining with a coastal low pressure, trying to form one, which could lead to intense rain and winds on the East Coast. You can see it kicks up quite a bit of lake effect. So in terms of that, we could be looking at quite a bit of precipitation. Midwest right here, obviously, and this again doesn't go through the whole storm, but quickly adding up the amounts across Maine and the Northeast. Notice we do have some very high precip amounts, so most of that falling as snow would indicate some very heavy snow amounts, and that seems to be the case. It does paint a bit of snow across Minnesota, Wisconsin, northern Iowa, but that may be a bit more overdone by this snowfall. Forecast for this model, if we were to look at the HRDPS, this one goes out to 48 hours, so unfortunately it leaves us hanging, but again, lots and lots of snow for the west, northwest. Most models are consistent with that, and that's a pretty big reason to call this a winter storm. If we were to take a look at the just the radar at around 48 hours, so this is around noon Saturday, you can see that the rain just starts shifting into Illinois, and that's when the two phases kind of come together. We have the system from the northwest storm, and then a bit of that Gulf of Mexico precipitation, and these two things combine. There's a cutoff here because this model doesn't forecast for these areas. It's mainly a bit more north-oriented, so that's that. And notice more precipitation coming onto the northwest with the next system. So lots and lots of precip for the northwest. If we were to take a look at some of the global models like the GFS, notice, yeah, very large storm across the northwest, literally a snowstorm, and or a rainstorm, but more of a snowstorm. And notice that as we push this forward, combines those two pieces of energy. And notice it doesn't really show much snow across Minnesota or Wisconsin, but it really shows quite a bit of rain and very strong winds. Northern portions of the storm, like southern Canada, will be seeing quite a bit of snow and a lot of mixing with the storm. You can see this isn't a really uniform rain/snow line. There could be a bit of snow on the backside, front side, northern side. So a lot of mixing in through, and there could be some surprise snow amounts in areas that may not expect it really. Notice that we do see a little piece of energy come after that, which could kick up some lake effect. But that's the GFS. Let's take a look at the Canadian model. This is another global model that is pretty highly regarded, often looked at. Notice we have a rain. Again, that rain coming from the Gulf of Mexico kind of rising up. And then we start seeing that those two pieces face together. The Canadian, very similar to what the GFS does. Very strong winds, very strong winds. Snow to the north, east, and west. Bit of lake effect, and this thing is a full-fledged kind of nor'easter-like system. So a very large storm. It's just that it's a bit further to the north of the snow, more than north than most people would like if they wanted to see snow across the U.S. But you can see that the Canadian really likes the fact of some heavy lake effect snow bands early next week. I mean, you know, when you have a setup like this could lead to monstrous amounts of snow across the lakes. So we'll have to see, especially across Michigan, Huron, and Superior, because the more wider lakes are west to east oriented, so they produce better when the wind is off just the west, not the northwest, the northwest. So notice that the Canadian does that. Also keeps things active in the future, right? But in terms of its total precipitation, again, similar to what the other models have been showing. Take a look at the total snowfall. You know, if the lake effect were to fold out, it would be a lot of snow. Southeastern Canada, northern Canada, northern portions of Quebec seeing very heavy snow. Total accumulated precipitation, you can see a generous amount, and that's definitely needed across those locations. Let's take a look at the GFS parallel. This is a bit outdated, the 12th of November, so today, right, but midnight. So almost 17 hours ago, so definitely not the newest information. Total snowfall, you can see, though, still painting quite a bit of snow, though, a bit further to the north, but still including some amounts across Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, the upstate New York area. And if we were to look at the European model, it shows, again, similar features. So I loaded up Pivotal Weather for the European model. This is a free website to use, and it has a free European model, so I highly recommend it. And if we were to take a look at this, notice we have that precipitation pushing off the East Coast. We have that little clipper, little disturbance across the Midwest tonight. Really not doing much, but again, the main story, just absolute monsters, loads of precip across the West. Very heavy snow or very heavy rain, maybe a bit of icing as well. The European is advocating for that. And seemingly it kind of disappears while the energy phases together with the Gulf of Mexico precipitation, rises up from the north or from the south, and then we see that phasing of those storms. Notice that the European doesn't kind of connect them as early as, say, the NAM does, so less snow across these locations. But if it were to do so earlier, then definitely more snow could fall across the U.S. side. But notice this thing does still have a powerful wind spin, lots of precipitation. It tries developing a coastal low out of this, and notice very, very heavy rain developing with this. Just a full out potential very heavy snow amounts across Maine and southern Quebec into Ontario as well. So lots of rain, lots of snow, but it's obviously a bit north for this time of the year. You can see very strong system. And in terms of the future, just to show you a glance, you can see it gives us a ridge, so warmer air across the east again. Lack of cool air seems to be the trend, and kind of keeping things a bit on the drier side for sure. But that's basically it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And obviously, for the best weather information, go to the National Weather Service. They provide the best information, the most accurate information. And if you were, say, to look at portions of Idaho right now, and you wanted to go hiking in the mountains, say Idaho City right now, is completely under winter storm warning, expecting some pretty heavy snow amounts, 3 to 5, 1 to 2, 1 to 3. So, around 5 to 8, maybe up to 10 inches of snow possible. Obviously, the higher elevations, some of them will be just absolutely astronomical amounts of snow. If you were to look at Washington, the mountain snow, you could see, I don't know what they say. They just say it will be, heaviest snow will be Thursday afternoon through Friday afternoon. Travel may be challenging, if not impossible, across the extreme elevations. Let's take a look at the winter storm warnings. Again, these are the mountains, so they see this type of snow, but look at that, just non-stop. Goodness gracious. Once the winter starts here, it's no let up, especially in the La Nina. Look, 2 to 4, 12 to 18, 18 to 12, or 8 to 12, 3 to 7, 3 to 5, 1 to 2. Sunday around an inch, and then around that time frame, we could be seeing our next system coming through, and you can see heavy snow potentially still continuing. So these locations, yeah, that's how they make their snowpack pretty quickly, especially during a La Nina year with so much moisture. So this is the forecast, the timed forecast. You can see Seattle well in the rain, right? But in the cooler winter months, especially when we get colder and such vast amounts of precipitation, we could definitely be looking at some snow for Seattle. It doesn't look to be, a foot of snow, but a few inches. I wouldn't be surprised. Again, not out of the system later on in the winter if this pattern upholds. I mean, look at that. That's just snow for a while. So a lot of activity, but thank you so much for watching, guys. And I'll catch you all guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.